Hello and welcome to Kerbal Space Program. This is the second episode of colonizing the moon. My plan is to claim the moon for the glory of the Great British Empire, and that is what I do in this episode. Last episode I put a scout rover on the moon to go and explore the moon and choose a suitable landing site, and that's exactly what it did. And today I'm going to follow up that rover with 3 brave Kerbals. And these 3 brave Kerbals are going to live in the residential area that I'm taking up with me. So off we go. We get out of the atmosphere and start sorting our orbits out. I cocked this up a little bit. I didn't check where the moon was before I launched, so I had to go on a really weird orbit. But it's all right in the end. So we boost up and start going in the way that our direction node tells us to go. The hardest part of this is landing on the moon. The landing is so tricky. Getting to the moon is quite easy as long as you have a rocket that's reasonably suitable. It's quite easy getting to the moon. Getting into orbit again is the easy bit. It's actually getting on the surface that's difficult. It's something that I'm not particularly brilliant at. I've only landed one thing on the moon in my entire Kerbal Space Program career, and that is the thing that I landed last episode. That is the first thing I've ever landed on the moon. So considering that, it was quite a successful landing. Think about it, it was quite bold of me to decide to do a series where I land a series of large objects on the moon when I haven't ever landed anything on the moon before. That was quite bold of me. Yeah, maybe it wasn't the best idea, but it's worked out alright so far, so we will make sure it works out okay in the future. This took quite a while to record, sorry, because there was a lot of mishaps, as you saw from the intro. There was a lot of mishaps. Getting the sky crane to work was really difficult. It was incredibly difficult, and you might have noticed that there's quite a major flaw with my rocket. The nuclear engine is actually attached directly to the fuel tank of the bottom engine, which means that all of the fuel from my nuclear engine has just gone. It's gone to the bottom fuel and to the bottom engine, and I have no way of retrieving that. So the nuclear engine is now just dead weight. It's not going to do anything for me. So that was a major flaw. Doesn't prove to be too problematic though. So it would have been nice had that not happened, because I would have had less weight coming into land. But it doesn't prove to be the big problem here. So I just kind of sort my orbit out. I'm just fiddling about at the moment, getting the node to line up with the orbit, with the landing point, so I can land at the same point as the base. So I'm just waiting here, just lining myself up with the movement node at the moment, and then I'll start time warping again. I hope I remember to do that. I kind of think of things that I want to edit in as I'm talking. So there, I said, let's do the time warp, and I thought, let's do the time warp again. That's a song, isn't it? So if I can't find that song, or if I forget, it's going to be quite embarrassing. You're probably going to be really confused as to why I'm talking about this. Editing is a weird thing. It really is. I get my tenses mixed up quite a bit as well when I'm talking with these post commentaries, because I'm like, well, do I say I did this, or do I say I am doing this? I don't know. So at the moment, I tend to do it in the present tense. I seem to think that seems to kind of it drives the narrative. It pushes the narrative forward a bit. So I'm currently descending, and I have, as you can see, the landing point is miles away from the rover. Quite literally miles away, and I'm getting quite low at this point. And you can tell if you're getting quite low, because you can see the texture on the moon, on the surface, start to tile. You can see the tiles of the textures, which is quite a good indicator, especially considering you don't have any depth of field perception. We don't have any depth of perception in computer games because it's just two-dimensional. But that's the way I tend to do it. So you can see the tiles are stretching quite far out now, so we're getting quite low. So this didn't go well. I'm currently here struggling to keep it slow, so I eject that heavy weight and fire up the rockets. Those rockets For some reason didn't thrust at that point. Maybe it was because all of the exhaust fumes were going straight into the little pillars that were holding the landing gear. So that may have, I mean, physics would say that causes a force in the opposite direction, so actually they cancel each other out. Physics, bloody bastard. So, take 2. Well, not 2, take about 15 or 16. This took a long time. There was a lot of trial and error with this one. Mostly error, but a bit of trial as well, to get this to work. But yeah, so this time I'm feeling confident because I've got the sky crane sorted. It still proves to be a little bit too powerful. That was a problem I had in the last episode. I made the sky crane way too powerful for the object it was lifting, which made it very difficult to control. And the fact that the thrust is above the centre of gravity of the object makes it even harder to control as well. So I'm going to try and develop sort of a sky crane that has its centre of thrust kind of in line with the centre of gravity or below it, because that makes it a lot easier to control. But anyway, as you can see, the bottom of this rocket is shaking about a lot. This really scared me, actually. That's why I reduced my thrust down to about 3/4 or 2/3, just to kind of make sure that didn't rip itself off and go careering into my Kerbals and murderizing them. As you can see, we have Jebediah Kerbal on board. He is the hero of the hour. He is the man who, if we land, he is going to plant the flag on the moon. He is going to be the man that declares the moon as part of the Great British Empire. The Great British Empire of Great Britain. The United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland and the moon. So we're making some good progress here. We're definitely going up. The expansion isn't quite in the right place, but I can just deal with that with a slight node. Add a node which gets us back on point, gets us back on target. So I warp up to that node now. So now I have thrust myself into a position where I am getting influenced by where I'm going to be influenced by the moon's gravity, and there we are. I am now being influenced by the moon's gravity. Exciting. Now, all I need to do is burn retrograde quite a bit to reduce my speed, my velocity, and get a nice orbit with the moon. So that's the plan. I point towards retrograde and warp to the position where my node is. I use the nodes quite a bit just for referencing more than actually for directing myself, because I can do most of this myself, but it's mostly just for referencing where the positions are, because I get a nice little countdown timer. So I burn retrograde quite a bit, just get myself into a nice orbit at the right altitude, which is about 30,000 or so, which is that's a nice altitude, 30,000, because we're about 28,000 kilometers above the surface. So it's a nice altitude to be at for orbiting, because you have a decent amount of height. You have quite a bit of time to react, but you're not so high that you're coming down. You have to lose a lot of speed to come down. So I just warp a bit more. I'm just orbiting, getting myself out, just sorting my life out at the moment, pointing the direction I need to be, and then I start burning in a bit. Yes, there we go. I start burning to get a nice circular orbit. There we go. It starts to spin around, and there. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. So, from the last attempt, I realised I didn't leave myself enough margin for error with the landing ground. I didn't put the position where my orbit intersected with the moon far enough back from the target, so I needed to. So that's something I kind of worked out a bit now. I did that instead, because to slow down, when you slow down, obviously your orbit shrinks, so you move. So the point where you're going to land is not actually becomes a bit shorter. That distance becomes shorter, and it comes closer to where your craft is. So it's not exactly where it says it's going to be. So here I've got like a good 10 kilometers there away from the landing site. So I just dump that part there. That's going to be that's actually probably going to crash into the ground, isn't it? That's going to crash into the ground at some point. Hopefully not on my spaceship. I don't think it does. It hasn't yet, so I don't think it will do. So I start burning retrograde a bit, just to get myself, just to reduce my velocity a little bit. I warp into a point where I feel a little bit confident, and here we go. I burn, and I've just slightly undershot the target a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start burning retrograde, but adding a little bit of latitude as well. A little bit of longitude. I think longitude is what I'm looking for. The vertical thing. So here I'm going 45 degrees upwards instead of just horizontally. That should just push my landing position over to the right a bit, push it a little bit further away whilst slowing me down. So there we go. As you can see, that's worked. So I've got that leeway again now, so I can just burn retrograde, and all of my velocity, all of my thrust will go into slowing me down instead of increasing my altitude. So here you can see the bottom, as you can see the bottom here, you can see the texture starting to tile. That's what I use as an indicator of how low I'm getting, because the height, the altitude meter doesn't always work properly because it's above sea level, not the surface. So here we have deployed the landing gear and we're about to come in. I'm going to drop off the nuclear engines in a moment because they're very heavy. So there we go, that's gone. That's gone, and I boosted a bit just to avoid the explosion that would probably happen. It didn't happen, so that's fine. So here we come, touchdown. That's good, but I made a bit of a mistake here. I should have been controlling it from that thing at the top, from the little control module at the top of the thing, and I should have had a decoupler instead of a binding thing and a docking station, because a decoupler I can just press space and it'll decouple, which would have been nice. I could have just hovered a little bit, and as I was in the right position, just press space and flown off. But instead I had to faff around right clicking on the decoupler on the docking stations and stuff. And the flag is down. Yes, there we go. This is it. The flag is there. This is the moon, part of the Great British Empire. This land has been claimed in the name of the glorious British Empire. And he jumps into that thing and completely takes himself out, which is quite fun. So I now start to ferry all of the Kerbals into the residential area of the ship, out of the cramped command module and into the residential area. So they're all in the residential area. That is it. I now rename it Quack Residence, the beginning of a new Earth. I should have called it a new world, because Earth is the name of the planet, so it's not actually the case that it's a new Earth. But oh well, no. So I send Bill over to the rover. He ends up sliding on his face because I used his jetpack to get there. So I send him over just to kind of have a look, just check that nothing has been stolen, because I'm still skeptical about the fact that there's no life on the moon. There's definitely got to be something there. So I'm worried that it's going to get stolen. So I decide I'm going to go check it out. Thankfully, it hasn't been stolen, so it's all good. So I just plonk him on top of the rover to get a nice screenshot. There we go, beautiful screenshot. And here is an even more gorgeous screen. This is such a great screenshot. This is why this game is so beautiful. I don't know what to put up next. Give me your ideas. Tell me what you want me to put up next. Tell me you want like a big explosive thing, or a ferry station or something. I don't know. Tell me what you want next, and I will try and put it up there. This is something that I'm running out of ideas. I've put a satellite up, which gives internet to all the Kerbals, so that's one thing. So anyway, in the meantime, toodaloo.